Welcome back, tribe. I want to hear from a Dr. Tracy Marks what social isolation does to your brain, how to undo the damage. Let's see.
Health education videos. It turns out our brains are wired for social interaction, and when we don't get it, the brain changes and you lose nerve connections in certain parts of the brain. Before COVID, this issue was more noticeable in older people who lived alone, cut off from their families, and maybe unable to drive. Researchers saw that the social isolation hastened the age-related cognitive decline and was a risk for developing Alzheimer's disease.
Damn. There you go. Alzheimer's. If you don't have a social circle, if you don't keep in touch with people, if you're living like the loner lifestyle, you are at risk. You see that? I've always said, guys, we're social creatures. There's no point in trying to become a hermit. It's not even healthy for you. We know physically it's not healthy for you, and we know mentally it's not healthy for you. And those two are interconnected. A lot of people report being depressed. There's so many people that I've seen in the comments saying, I'm happy to be alone. No, you're not. Or else you wouldn't be telling the world, I'm happy to be alone. I'm happy. I'm so glad I'm alone. You don't have to advertise it, dude. The people that advertise shit the most are the ones that are most insecure about the thing they're advertising. You know, like, I am the king. I am the king. In Game of Thrones, he's like, a real king doesn't have to announce that he's the king. That's really what it is. You're coping in a way, trying to reaffirm your loneliness to yourself as if you made a good decision. That's why I tell guys, dude, go into an MMA gym, start sparring with dudes, start learning, start doing jujitsu, start rock climbing clubs, go to motorcycle clubs if you got one, go anywhere, do something with a group of people. It's good for you. You may stumble across some really cool individuals and make some good friends. This hermit shit is not it. Not for us, at least.
But with COVID and the ensuing lockdown, we see the evidence of these brain changes in younger people. You may experience it as brain fog. Brain fog can be a lot of things, but in general, you can think and process information slower. You can have trouble finding words. You can feel mentally tired and draggy, even though you haven't done anything that's physically tiring. Why would social isolation do this? Your brain is made up of a network of nerves that connect to one another. The tighter the connections between the nerves, the better they are able to transmit signals from one nerve to another. Inflammation loosens these connections, as does social isolation. Social isolation affects your social cognition. Social cognition is a set of skills that include being able to read someone's emotional expression, remembering and recognizing someone whose face is familiar to you, being able to interpret someone's tone of voice, and being able to empathize with another person and appreciate that they have their own desires, goals.
I could tell you that the emotional expression or just being able to socialize in general is a huge problem with a lot of men. We have private calls on the community that we have multiple times a week, and I've spoken to so many dudes now since the community has been opened up. And this is one of the biggest, guys don't know. Some guys really, not all, but dude, it's a frightening amount of dudes that don't know how to be social with other people. And they'll default into saying like they're autistic or something. And they're not, because once they calm down and you talk to them where they're able to express themselves normally, it's just like nervousness to be on a Zoom call, nervousness to have a conversation with somebody else that maybe shares your beliefs or, thoughts on the world. Nervousness because you haven't connected with another human being, God knows how long, like you haven't talked, you've been isolated. So I do believe what she's saying in terms of like, because I'm much of a critic of trust the science and the research as much as anybody else. I didn't take the jab, any boosters, none of that. But I've seen it with my own eyes, how socially dysfunctional men have become, especially the younger ones today that have been raised with iPads or video games and they hardly do face-to-face interactions. And holding a conversation with them is a fucking pain, bro. They're so socially inept and held back. This is a huge problem. And I guarantee you this stuff, of course, it flows into dating and relationships and having friends and a male friend group and all this stuff because of how far back they are socially. It sucks, dude. This is the part, I don't think many people touch on this part specifically because most likely the viewers watching are going to be really offended at hearing some shit like that. Like, I'm not the I don't have any issue. Because that's what we do by default. You try to defend yourself when it seems like the criticism is lobbied at you. But I'm just saying, men in general, especially the younger ones too, they're more socially inept than previous generations. So I think that's kind of widely accepted, but we don't really know the depth of how inept most of these younger guys are. And they struggle, man. They struggle a lot.
Goals and intentions. This last skill is called theory of mind. Don't know why it's called that. Doesn't quite make sense to me, but that's just in case you read that in the articles that I have referenced. These skills are learned very early on, but we need social interaction to maintain them. So some aspect of isolation is that you lose these skills because you fall out of practice. But then there's the brain changes. In one of the studies that I referenced, researchers looked at structural MRI data from 32,000 people. That's a large study. The people who were socially isolated showed brain loss in the temporal lobes, frontal lobes, and hippocampus. Your hippocampus is important for emotional memories, among other functions. And I've said before that people who are depressed have smaller hippocampi. Now, if you've watched many of my videos, you probably know that I don't like presenting negative information without a silver lining, and here it is. Even if you have brain loss from pandemic isolation, depression, long COVID, or something else that causes brain damage, your brain has the ability to rewire itself and strengthen loose connections. This ability is called neuroplasticity. So one solution to this problem of social isolation is to build up your cognitive reserve. Cognitive reserve is the mental buffer you have that lets your brain compensate and function even when you have reduced brain volume. It's like having a backup power generator turn on when the power goes out. And this is a real thing and explains why some people can get to their 80s and still be very sharp, while someone else at 68 is having trouble remembering important events. The more robust your cognitive reserve, the better you're able to function when exposed to stressors like isolation, environmental toxins, chronic stress, or anything else that's damaging to the brain. So you can think of cognitive reserve as your brain's physiological resilience. Here are 5 things that can increase your cognitive reserve: education, high levels of social interaction, cognitively challenging jobs, activities that engage your brain like crossword puzzles, reading, learning a new language, and learning to play an instrument. And then regular physical exercise, because exercise stimulates nerve growth, and nerve growth means new pathways and connections.
You hear that? Regular physical exercise. The dudes that don't exercise always say, what's the point? What's the point? I don't care about women. That's the point, bro. So you don't become fucking retarded over time. So your brain doesn't shrink into a fucking peanut. I know it's hyperbolic, but you're turning into a fucking toad, straight tard, by not exercising, creating, at least putting your body in that ability to create new neural pathways. Then pick up a fucking book, start reading again, start making some friends, go do something like jujitsu. Like I said, that's easier on the body, or take some boxing classes. You know, what is cognitively challenging jobs? I don't know. If you have something that requires a lot of thinking, not manual labor. So you could cross that off if that's not what you do, fine. Activities that engage your brain, like I said, jujitsu is one of them because it's a thinking man's game also. And you're actively reacting. It keeps you sharp while you're rolling with another human being, anything. So this bottom one, coupled with some of these other ones, is how you build a reserve, like she said. And a lot of men are stuck looking at this with the end goal of women in mind, so they'll stop even pursuing any of these things for themselves. It's sad, bro. It's pathetic, actually.
I explain how that works in my video on how exercise changes your brain. Building up your cognitive reserve is something you do over a lifetime. It's not a one and done thing. You have to continuously engage your mind. And education doesn't mean you have to go to Harvard or Oxford if you're in the UK. It's not about the kind of degree you get. It's about a commitment to learning and processing new information. When I was growing up without the internet, the way that you gained knowledge was to go to school or go to the library and look things up in encyclopedias. But now there is so much information available online that you can get a very advanced level of education from researching and reading from trusted online sources. If you want to learn a new language, there's online courses for that. Then there's even free YouTube videos that can teach you a lot about a lot of different things. You just have to stay curious. This list that I just gave you isn't exhaustive. Diet, sleep, and self-care also factor in. But the one thing I like about this list is that most of the factors are within your control. You may not be able to control how challenging your job is. In fact, it may be a mind-numbing struggle for you to get through it every day. But you can compensate for the hit that your brain takes from that kind of job by exercising before you go to work, if you can swing that schedule, or working on mind puzzles during your lunch hour or when you get home. And by the way, don't mistake a stressful job for a mentally challenging one.
Mm,
Too much work with unrealistic deadlines can make your work stressful, but it doesn't mean it's mentally challenging in a positive way. Mentally challenging work should feel satisfying at some level, even if it's hard work.
mm. That's a great video, dude. 6 minutes of straight heaters. I like it. Look, bro, I love being alone. I purposely isolate myself, although I recognize it may not be healthy, although I know I'm fucking myself over. I think it goes beyond being an introvert. Depression and anxiety, generalized or social. It's literally a way of life, and not many people can understand it. Again, you're fucking coping, bro. You know it's not healthy for you, yet you still indulge in it. Full story. Having social anxiety from a young age really messes you up more than people realize. Prayers in action, we could all get through this. I was practically raised in a social isolation environment full of bullying and mistrust. It is extremely difficult to combat social anxiety and rewire your brain when you're lacking even the basic social skills that most children learn at a young age. There you go. Look at this. I have more damage caused by people. Prefer to stay alone. Have my own peace. People traumatize my head terribly. Since I'm alone, I feel much healthier mentally and physically. Told you guys. I self-isolate to survive. Do you see the copers, dude? This video directly spoke to how to improve your outcomes, and the copers come out in droves, and they're all women. Is it a shock that it's all women coping? Look, I absolutely love and cherish being alone and being left alone. I am able to interact with coworkers and neighbors just fine. But when I get home, I don't have people over or answer the door for anyone unless it's an emergency with a neighbor or something. I want to move to a very rural, private area where the closest neighbor would be a mile away. My solitude is my salvation. Look, another one. I'll face whatever consequences come. I have no desire to be around people. I like peace and quiet. Call it isolation. Another woman. Jesus, bro. Women came out in droves, yeah? We have a single guy here saying the same thing. He loves to be alone. Other people relating how they're being bullied and stuff. This guy's middle-aged, or Jane Doe, sorry, another woman, and derives no joy from socializing, yada, yada. All this stuff is tied to, trauma that you had as a kid, whether you were bullied, whether you were isolated, nagged, punished in some way. And now you're coping with the fact that you think you prefer to do the very thing you were taught to do in a negative fashion as a kid. I like to be alone because I was bullied. No, bro, you're alone because of the bullying, and now you let it overtake your life, and you've accepted that the bullying has shaped you into a person that likes to be alone instead of somebody that was held back by the bullying and became a loner. That's what people have to get through their heads. And you'll get it in this video too. People will say it in the comment section here. I know, because I've actually talked to a couple older dudes, some boomers that have moved overseas, and they're saying the same shit. I'm just moving by myself. I don't care. We've even actually seen it in videos where I don't care about women. I don't care about anybody. I don't want to make no friends. I just want to live off my pension and my hard work and blah, blah, blah. And then they go overseas and get a woman. All of a sudden they have a kid and their joy for life comes back. They get color in their face. They're like, you know what? I think it's time I met this great girl. And yeah. Anyways, bro, you could cope all you fucking want. Maybe you're in a horrible environment. That's true. Maybe you need to go somewhere else. That's a big one. But also your mentality matters. This was Dr. Tracy Marks. Check out her channel if you want to see more. Links will be in the description below. As usual, boys, appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.